Hello and welcome to Jus Ah Conversation. This is the podcast where we have real conversations about the topics that matter to you. I'm Mikul Elcock, joined by my co-host
Aisha Reid.
Right, and today's episode is going to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster because we're going to be speaking about physical realities of surviving a hurricane. Both Aisha and myself have had our own journeys. She is a survivor, an evacuee from Hurricane Katrina. I myself would have been on the front lines as a media professional in events such as Hurricane Maria and Beryl. Together with our guests, you'll be hearing what it's like to really go through such an experience and come out the other side. As I said earlier, our conversation today is based around, surviving in disasters. And we have three guests today joining us. Our first guest, our boss, Tyson Henry, is the Chief Information Officer of the Barbados Government Information Service. He took up the role just last year. He's a graduate of Commerce School, up and on, and he holds a Bachelor in Journalism and a Master's in Tourism Marketing with the University of Houston. He has had a versatile career in his time in the media, and he actually was present for the devastation that was wrought in Dominica by Hurricane Maria. We also have Captain Harewood, Robert Harewood, who's the Deputy Director of the Barbados Department of Emergency Management, who has over 20 years of experience in disaster management. He's worked with SEDEMA, the British Virgin Islands Department of Disaster Management, and served as a consultant for Barbados' 2007 Cricket World Cup. He's also a commissioned officer in the Barbados Defense Force and has deployed to several disaster events across the Caribbean. Welcome. We also have Ryan Bourne, who's just told me he's a fisherman for all of his life. Over 30 years, he's been in the industry, and he was impacted by the recent passing of Hurricane Beryl. Welcome. The reason you guys are here is because you all have had a variety of experiences in these situations, from being a responder, being, in the actual event, and being impacted by it. So that's what we're going to be really delving into today. So Tyson, you've been through the same disaster event that I came on the tail end of. And there was a lot of Bajans that were actually on the ground when that happened. You want to tell us a bit about how that experience was for you?
Before Michael, don't forget he's been through two of them.
Yeah.
Two of them.
I was actually going to say, yeah.
True. So you can start wherever you want to, actually.
No, there was actually, it's funny, all right, I guess we'll start with Maria. Shout out to Jeremy Stephen, by the way, and Esther James and her.
Right.
I think they were engaged at the time.
Yes,
I could be wrong.
She was a couple.
Yeah. Shout out to them and any other Bajans that may have been there that I didn't get to meet.
Yes.
And also, I just want to caution them as well, and anyone who went through Maria, because sometimes even hearing about it can trigger you. I'm just speaking from experience, so I must put that disclaimer out there.
Right.
But when Maria was, I will never forget it. I have the times wrong because, I can't remember everything specifically, but I want to say I had electricity up until about 5 p.m.
Right.
And right before electricity went, I was watching CNN, and they were saying that this thing was intensifying so rapidly that they might even need to find a new category.
Wow.
Right.
And that was the first time I ever heard about a hurricane, potentially going past Category 5 or having to come up with a new subset for Category 5.
And for perspective, I was home safe in Barbados at that point in time, hearing this news, but thinking,
everything gonna be good.
Everything gonna be all right,
Good.
And it's funny you should say that because I was thinking I already went through a hurricane. So when I was in Houston, my very first semester there, but that also, and let me backtrack a bit, because it might sound crazy, I was displaced for the entire semester, but I had, to my mind, a privileged stay when I was there. Shout out to Dr. Brown, Louis Brown.
Right.
He took me in, and where he was in Sugarland, which is a totally different part of Houston.
Right.
So I didn't really feel the displacement. And when we returned in the second semester, you could see that there were floods and stuff like that, and you were seeing lakes where there were where it was just grass beforehand.
Right.
So I just, to my mind, for some odd reason, I felt that a hurricane was just water. I'm saying that to set you up to understand. Maria now, the wind
Was it the-
combined with the water. I kid you not. I don't know if you ever saw something being sandblasted, but the trees, the bark off of the trees, that was the first thing that struck me. There were no leaves, there was no bark on trees. It was, you could see things that you could never see the morning after.
I saw them after you guys would have had to actually gone through the experience, because I would have came in. I think we landed 24 hours with the Barbados Defense Force after it happened. It was mind blowing to see trees with no bark. I couldn't understand.
Yeah, you can't imagine it. You really can't. Just understand hearing it happen.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure because you were in Dominica, you'd understand how mountainous it is.
Yes.
And also their soil type. I'm not a geologist, but it is not the kind that can handle water too much. So it doesn't call for much for landslides to occur. One day of rain, and you can hear about roads being closed. So understand a hurricane, the landslides, the rivers that were already there. They created new paths.
Right.
A lot of people lost their lives with that, and you can hear it.
Yes.
You could hear it.
My question to you is, when you realized the severity of it all, how did you react? What was your plan? Did you have a plan? Did you?
Even before then, like, what, Azerbaijan coming in, we don't deal with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What was your plan before, even before it happened?
Oh, I mean, again, based on my previous experience, or so I thought. I thought it was experience. I did the usual. You have your duffel bag. You got your Ziploc bags with your passport. Very cute stuff. I packed the duffel bag with a week's worth of clothes. During school, it was to protect my schoolwork.
Right.
In Dominica, I was very much working, so it was to protect various things, like equipment and hard drives, you name it, for actual work, because I knew something was going to happen, and I didn't want to be that guy that lost everything.
Right.
You didn't want to be, and my boss at the time, for full disclosure, would have been a whole prime minister.
Right.
You ain't trying to tell him, I lost everything.
Right.
He needed, and he actually used that footage that I had beforehand, because you need to be able to show people the before, because people tend to then only remember the after. And not understand how much destruction occurred. Okay. So I had the duffel bag and everything with clothes, and I say that because that actually ended up being what I was surviving on. The canned tuna and everything, that was luxurious for me. After by week 2, I was beginning to run low on supplies, but I at least had these supplies.
I was just about to ask, how long was the period for you of being, I guess, a hurricane refugee?
Yeah.
It is honestly clothing now. As for how, because honestly, in the moment, every day felt like a week.
Right.
But I can guesstimate that for roughly 3 weeks to a month, I was bouncing between my Suzuki. I had a little Vitara, so you understand size.
How you mean, like, bouncing between it, like sleeping in it?
Between that and my office. Because we had a little cot in again, speaking from a place of privilege, at least I had shelter.
Right.
But between the vehicle, which by the way was trapped in, and the office, which I had to walk to, can't tell you the mileage. Perhaps in post you could put up the mileage between Canefield to the heart of Roseau. Yeah. Well, I had to be walking that every day just to come back home for supplies.
And it is amazing because it reminds me, hearing you say you were sleeping at your office there, when we got there on the ground and we actually started to head out from the port, there was a guy, he was just sitting down at like this abandoned gas station, and he was just sitting over the chair. We came over, tried to offer him some water and stuff, and he was like, where are you living? And he was like, this is where I live in.
Yeah.
This is my whole abode right now. My house get blown on, my cat get blown away by the wind. Literally, that's what he said.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm living right now. So I understand that the impact of these things is something that is extremely difficult. Robert, I want to come to you a second. So in terms of resilience in these situations, how would you recommend people deal with that kind of stuff, or prepare for that kind of stuff, or handle it once it's gone underwear?
Okay, thanks for that question. So a couple of things I want to say before you answer that. The Caribbean region is known to be second most hazard-prone region in the world, first of all. Right? We practice what we call comprehensive disaster management. So we look at all hazards, all phases, disaster continuum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Resilience is a journey, or preparedness is a journey, is not a destination.
Yes.
So you can only prepare for what you know.
Right.
So like
That's
my
true.
colleague here, he prepared for what he knew, he experienced in Texas.
Great.
But the experience in Dominica was totally different.
Right.
So he was not prepared technically for the Dominica impact.
Right.
And every situation, every impact is different.
Right.
So what we found in, for example, the British Virgin Islands was that yes, you had cement roofs, you had wall structure, you had shutters, etc. But you had a situation where the wind pressure was so great. So if there was any space between that shutter that was affixed to the house and the shutter itself, and the wind got in, and the wind built up in there, it almost like exploded.
Wow.
So the shutters themselves came off.
Right.
We never experienced that before. And then you had significant storm surge. So there are places where, for example, the Bahamas, in 2019, Dorian,
Right.
9, 10, 12-foot storm surge. You had people holding on in rafters in the churches, and the little children being tied up on rope, etc.
I want to pause you quick for 1 second. Storm surge. Explain storm surge. A lot of people hear storm surge, but I don't think they really
No ways.
understand
Yeah.
what storm surge is.
Well, I would say that I probably don't understand it either. And I say this because Hurricane Beryl that impacted us,
Storm surge.
we were saying that it was storm surge that impacted, for example, the
fishing-
South Coast.
yeah,
But obviously I know that was not a storm surge, that was just sea swells.
Oh,
So
okay.
to tell us that storm surge is when the forward edge of the water, or the water is
We just got a definition here on the screen, but you could continue.
okay, or from my understanding, is when the forward edge of the water in the system is raised up such that it's forced on land.
Right.
So it's not like a tsunami or what we might call a tidal wave,
Right.
but it's wind driven, and it's
Right.
driven by the force of the hurricane,
Right.
and it's driven on land. That's why I understand by storm surge, but the meteorologists may have their definition for it, because I'm a layman.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ryan, we're coming over to you now because you would have been affected by. Right now, I guess we'll be debating on what the definition is of a storm surge. But tell us about how it was for you being impacted by Beryl.
The impact of Barbados. No, first of all, the fishing complex was always a safe haven for fishing boats. Don't matter what system is passing.
Yeah.
All my life.
Right.
Yeah. All your.
Whatever system passing, you take the boats to the complex and you'll be safe.
Right.
Now when Barbados passed, we did that. Take the boat to the complex. The morning, that would be the Sunday morning, we went down to the boats to see how things was.
Yeah.
Everything was still okay. We found out about an hour. He says storm surge. I don't understand what storm surge means.
Right.
But I was saying is the storm surge. I have never seen the complex water so high.
Right.
The water in the complex was so high that the boats was actually up by the piers that they were tied on.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Well,
But then it was still calm the morning. But within a half an hour, some seas start to come in there. 12 foot, 15 foot waves was actually came in over the keys, was the brick wall
Yes.
of the complex.
Yeah.
And coming straight into the boat.
right.
So these seas was so big that the breakway, the platform where the boats are tied on, which is concrete,
Right.
Wow.
Oh,
break them way. So the boats that was tied on them
oh,
was to do.
right.
So then become a battering around.
Right.
And the sea was so constant, it was like sea after sea after sea. So you basically could not do nothing. We was trying. Who was in there was trying the best to get. But in there become a place where you actually had to leave in there to save yourself.
I was just about to say I want to switch back to Robert now because just listening to him tell that story sounds like a secondary issue that you're about to create. No, if you inside an environment like that, where these boats getting pushed wrong, like how do you recommend people? I've seen a lot of stories about people who actually pass away in hurricanes from not necessarily the hurricane itself, but going outside and trying to save property or whatever it is.
Right. So, and I'll have to be cautious in what they say here because they represent the Department of Emergency Management. But we are always advising persons and not to put themselves in danger.
Right.
So generally, no one should have been in the fishing complex, no human beings, right? But we know that there's a livelihood.
Right.
You want to protect your livelihood. And we've
Correct.
seen it across the region. People will stay with their assets because they want to make sure that they can protect them.
Right.
So we will continue to have this problem, this challenge. What I can recommend is that we understand what the challenges could be. So we now know that the fishing complex could be overtouched, but that might never happen again. We may have another challenge going down the road. So one of the things that we don't do very well in the region is that we don't look at other people's experiences and try to learn from them. Because we always say it will never happen again, right? So that's one of the things that we want to encourage the persons to have a plan, understand what could happen to you, or what has happened to you in the past, what has happened to others in the past, and treat to a solution, prepare solutions, or at least understand what you need to do to save your life.
Right.
Because your assets you can rebuild, and your assets can be replaced, but your life cannot.
But then I just want to ask a quick question there, because
Yeah.
you'd be speaking about going to protect assets or leaving to protect assets. What about when you're inside? Because, for example, his issue would have been water and
right.
boats, external. I didn't get to also say this part. During the hurricane, I was very much where I felt was safe, close to an exit, flee to it. I don't know why, but it just made sense until it did not. And luckily, I was told by someone who knew the house well to go inside the bathroom that has no window. I was fortunate to have such a room. And during the eye of the storm, the seat that I was on, the couch I was on, I was able to escape from the bathroom because by then water had risen and everything, you lost your roof. And on that couch where I was, I saw the solar water tank and the panel.
Wow.
So understand that I would have been in my house.
Right. Correct.
So I would be intrigued to hear what.
So really, there's no magic bullet. There's no magic solution. Because again, that was one of the first Category 5 enhanced storms that we would have seen. Right? Because in the past, everything we had, all these structures and stuff were rated to Category 3.
Right.
We get in Category 5, maybe even Category 6. And the hurricane category is predicated on the wind speed. The wind speed only.
Right.
But you have things like, again, storm surge. And what storm surge brings in, anything out there coming in and anything is in going out. And you have quickly rising sea levels. So we have a story now of police officers, I believe they were in Union Island, just recently after Beryl, who held on in the bathroom again, in the safe room. So we asked persons to identify a safe room, like an enclosed closet or bathroom which had a small window. They held on in there, I think, with 5 or 6 of them. While the storm surge was impacting and destroyed the police station that was not an old police station. It was, it was not a brand new structure, but it was not old in the sense of what we would call an aged building. But they thought that the building, like most of us, would survive. Again, in one of the deployments that I was in, we were supposed to stay in this gentleman's house that was supposed to be secure. He had hurricane straps on the rafters, etc. But what I learned in that scenario, that hurricane straps don't save roofs. It saved the rafters.
Okay.
1, 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're fixed to the rafter,
Right.
not the galvanized or the roof itself. And 2, because the house wasn't shuttered, once the windows broke and the wind came in, the roof went. So generally, hurricane straps should, in my opinion, also go with hurricane shutters because you don't want the wind coming in. Right? So every time we deploy, it's a different experience.
But I want to ask Ryan a question. So in terms of, you spoke about being down by the fishing complex and stuff like that. How many boats did you have down there and how many you lost?
I had 3 boats down there. 2 were lost, completely destroyed, and one repairable.
Because I saw people making fun on social media with you guys trying to save your boats, but that's your livelihood. And I want you to explain to people what went into your mind during this hurricane to save your boats.
Well, like I said, the morning when we went down there, things was calm. So we were trying to more or less secure the boats as best as we could, hoping that the worst had passed.
Yep.
We didn't expect the sea to get the way it did.
Right.
Okay? No good. After this whole thing unfolded, like I said, we had to leave the boats to the elements of the sea and hope for the best after this thing came down. Because everybody had to leave the complex.
Right.
Because, like I said, you were staying up, and when the sea raised up, it's like the boat would have come and hit you. So you actually was putting yourself in danger. I was surprised that nobody did not get hurt. Because a lot of us was down there trying our best.
Yeah, I saw the
To
videos
serve.
on social
To
media.
serve.
I was
Crazy.
I was winching.
It was real horrible.
Right.
Boat is our livelihood. We come along with boats.
Right.
And to you, your house, you came along with your house. And to stand up and see your house burn down or somebody destroyed, it will hurt.
Right.
And to stand up and watch those boats being destroyed and you can't do nothing. It's like somebody beating you better and you
Correct.
can't get there to help.
Right.
And then to hear the sound of these boats crashing, you know, it's so heart-wrenching. It hurts. It make big men come
Right.
to tears. The song alone, I could talk to you now and still hear the song of these boats. They were whole like the song was like the boats was to me was crying for help.
Right.
And you cannot help them. You just cannot help
Made an
them.
important point. So there's two things we gotta do now. I want Aisha to speak about her experience in Hurricane Katrina, but I want you. I don't know if this is an area you are experienced in, but what he's speaking about also sounds like it could have like a PTSD type effect.
Correct.
Psychological impact.
Right.
Yes.
I think I've heard you mention it as well, Tyson. So tell your story 1st, and then tell me what you think about how people can also like try to work through those type of issues.
Before we get there to my story though, I remember when we were told that we could leave, we could go on the streets now, and we left DEM because I was based in DEM during Beryl, and we went down to the fishing complex, and I actually saw the boats hitting together, and I remember just seeing them, they're going bang and bang, and the water's still there and thing, and they seeing big men crying. I actually tell the guys, I get in the car and come back. I was like, I cannot take watching these people suffer.
It was heart-wrenching.
So like backtrack to 19 years ago in New Orleans, and I had just gotten back from Barbados. And in my dorm room, Saturday morning, I would never forget this. Check out the phone to call my cousin, also called Maria, Kevin.
Up and on.
I called Kevin. Congrats! I see you become an exhibition winner. So you still in your dorm? I said, yeah. What going on? So you don't know you got a hurricane coming? I said, Kevin, what you mean? What hurricane? Because I must say that I had just gone back a week before. I didn't get back my TV yet. So I ain't got a clue what was going on. I said, well, hurricane, well, might be good, man. That's how last year we had, I think it was Ivan in 2004, I think it would have been Ivan. And 9 it happened, and we good. An hour later, Kevin called back. Listen, we following this thing from CNN. You have to leave in there or what's not. I said, all right, let me go outside and see what's the plan, what's the vibe on campus or what's not. We went downstairs to people I met the night before. Because I would say that my first year in New Orleans, I was like a real studious student. I wasn't doing anything. I was just home all the time. But for some reason, the night before, when I returned in my second year, the night before, I went out to a open campus thing that they had. And I met some ladies there, and we went out afterwards. So I went downstairs Saturday morning to them, and I was like, what's the plan? I see everybody frantic. Oh, we evacuating. I said, so we'll be good, right? Because I ran back upstairs now to my RA. RA said, girl, Aisha, I don't know what to tell you, but we don't have a plan. There is no plan.
Right.
And I went back downstairs now. I said, so what's going on here? So when the girl said, all right, you know what? Thomas, who live in front of me, his parents coming for him now. They got a room for he and 3 more. You come with me, and Rocher, who had introduced me to the girls, she got a relative in New Orleans. She can then stay. So I took Richelle's place, right? They said, go and get your things. They're coming right now. I went upstairs. I pack up my little thing, pack your passport. Hardly pack any clothes. Just pack up these things and I run downstairs and be gone alone. Take on my cell phone, call my mother. She said, yeah, girl, what you doing? What you doing? I said, God, it's covered, man. I'm evacuating. She said, well, who? I said, well, people I know every since, man. These people good, these people good. They good. She said, you sure? You sure? I said, Mommy, I know these people for a long time, man. They're good, they're good, they're good. I meet these people last night, right? But what am I thinking? If one body get hurt, they get hurt all the way. Right. So we go along now and get on the highway and you're trapped on this highway for like 12, 14 hours. Then we made it out to like 4 hours out to New Orleans and we sat there and we watched things unfolded from afar. And I remember the Sunday now, Rihanna had just been on MTV for the first time with Mr. DJ Sound for the replay at the awards. And we sitting down and people saying, Aisha, I want you to tell me, what is expecting a hurricane? Because you from Barbados. I said, me? what are you talking about? But you from Caribbean when it's get hurricanes? I said, it's my last Barbados had a hurricane. Like in the 50s. I've never seen anything like this before, so I don't know. So basically, what the family did that I was staying with, they shut off the news and we were just allowed to watch like anything that wasn't anything. And then like 2 or 3 days later, they sat us down and said, listen, we got sent to tell y'all. Y'all didn't get back to school. New Orleans is mashed up. Mashed totally up. And we just sat there and the reality was that we didn't know how to go from there. So we went from Louisiana to I went from Louisiana to Chicago. My friend bought a ticket for me and then I went to New York. Then my parents had to organize with the consulate and I flew back in or whatnot. So the next semester I went to another school. Then I was told I had to go back to New Orleans to finish my degree because there's one thing that was missing. A year later, when I touched down in New Orleans, the place that looked like still big USA, a war zone still.
Yeah.
You're driving through and you're seeing, you would see a house and you would see something like September 9th on the house. And then we see 3. So it's like, what that 3 means? It means September 9th they entered, 3 people were found dead.
That's
And,
right.
so, and like, he ain't got the gas station, he ain't got the food places, he ain't got the bus drivers there driving in short pants. There's nothing. And this is big America, right? Fast forward 15 years, I returned there, driving through New Orleans again. Half the place still the same way. So what we see in the French quarters and stuff on TV, that got started out, but 15 years later, still the same way.
Yeah, actually, because she's right, because quite a few people. Houston, I actually met a good set of people who were evacuees. So it's funny, you should, not funny as in haha, but that brings back memories because I remember how they were terrified.
Yeah.
They terrified of the thought of that happening again.
Correct.
Because New Orleans, they said that there's nothing to go back to, and now it coming for Houston.
Correct.
So they felt like this can't be happening again.
Again, yeah.
So that is what you're saying is facts. It's
Yeah.
facts.
So I don't know. It is one of the situations where sometimes it's just still be home thinking about what could have happened, especially when you're seeing rapes in Superdome, and that's where my classmates would have been evacuated. Took refuge in Superdome, and you seeing all these things, and you're like, whoa! If that girl didn't give me that spot, I don't know what would have happened. If I didn't get in last night, what would have happened?
Before I let Robert speak to that, I guess I'll share my experience, which feels no pales in comparison, right, to everything everybody's been experiencing. But my first exposure would have been Maria, and I would have gotten the call shortly after it was confirmed we had lost contact with Dominica. It was saying that it was total blackout on the island. The defense force was heading down, and they wanted to send a team from JS to go and like document and see what's happening on the ground. And I checked in with my people. I said, "You think it's a good idea?" People said, "Yeah, man, go. You got this. You got it covered." So I just grabbed my camera gear, got my bag, and I headed down to the defense force. Got into the boat. It was supposed to be, I think it was like a 12-hour ride. We were stuffed in there like sardines. I had all the first responder type people that had
People like Robert and Henry.
yes. How we squeeze up, but we met room and we sit down. I slept. The first time in a long time I ever had to sleep sitting up. But we got there, and I remember pulling up to the coast of Dominica, and that was when activity started happening again. So I grabbed my camera, I go up on top of the deck, and the soldiers are, got the binoculars looking, and I seen like logs floating out to sea, and I'm thinking, whoa, this thing, but why the whole country look brown? Wait, where the green is, where everything just look brown. And I remember a log float past the boat, and I remember looking at a log, and I remember hearing a soldier saying, oh shoot, that's one we need to record. One he need to record? What are he talking about? And I realized the conversation they're having is that was a dead body, but they don't have space on the boat to do no recoveries right now, so they just need to make a note that they saw whatever. And up to this day, I know that I saw the thing, and my head, it was a log. Up to this day, it's still a log, but the gravity of it hit me in that moment, like what I get myself into. Mm-hmm. Then I hit the port, and I see people walking around with cutlasses, and the soldiers armed right now because their mission is also to try to secure the state, because there is a situation happening on the ground. It's not the people's fault or anything like that, but people are in a place where they are feeling aggravated, they want resources. I really started asking myself, what am I doing here? One of the first people we spoke to, similar story to yours, he was in his house with his family. Luckily, he has a 2-story house. The roof came off, and him and his entire family, about 10 of them, had to go downstairs into a bathroom. Same situation. Crowded up behind that in a bathroom. And he said that's where they stayed for the next how much ever hours. So I filming this thing behind the camera, but listening to this man tell his story, and it's man emotional. And it's like, on the one part, I'm trying to do my job. I want to document this thing. I can't really understand what you've gone through, but I can clearly tell that it's something really devastating. At the same time, we seeing like 40-foot containers tossed across the highway, ball up like snow cone cups. It's like,
that could happen, right?
Right. Wind did this to this thing.
Combo, wind and water. Yeah.
The seeing that the rivers overflowed to the fact that the mud was going through the city, the main city, up to covering, like you couldn't tell which store was which because it was just mud. So that was my first real eye opener. Both me and Aisha would have traveled again recently. After Beryl. I would say I was much more prepared, but the reason we want to talk about the PTSD is because I remember seeing Aisha have a certain reaction, like being triggered almost, like
in the situation. Yeah. Again.
It's not that she had to experience it, but just seeing the people, and for me, I've never experienced an actual hurricane. I've only seen the aftermath. But even for me, like there was a point where we saw some kids in a yard, and it reminded me when I was in Dominica, I was just giving everything I had, and for a minute I felt so terrible because I felt like, oh shoot, I didn't walk with the snacks or nothing. But we ended up scrounging, and we still had some snacks, and we gave them some snacks and stuff. But
and then by the time we get to the next house, more children, and nothing to give them. It was like,
but yeah, so you could talk a bit about how that.
So there's an interesting, about not interesting, but a great line to go down because the region has done a lot of work with respect to talking about stress management and disasters. Power did a lot of work on this in the early days, and we now talk about psychosocial first aid, et cetera, et cetera. But we've not gone the extra mile to ensure that people understand what it is and have access to it. So I know locally we've done a lot of work too with the Ministry of Health to put programs in place so persons who require that intervention can request it through either the EOC when it's activated, the DM, or the Ministry of Health. But that's not something that we're accustomed to.
Right.
But the challenge that I found is there are a lot of situations in the region. For example, I want to go back to my first deployment as part of the regional response mechanism, the CDMA mechanism, was in December 2013.
Right.
It was not a hurricane. It was the trough system that sat on Dominica for a while. The Christmas, we called it Christmas Eve event. So when we went in, there were children who preparing for Christmas, and they said they were now in a position where the event took away all their toys and everything. and they can understand why there's no Christmas, right? How do you deal with children who are at that stage? You can tell them anything, but children are resilient.
Yeah.
Now, the other case I want to mention is, I don't want to say the elderly, but persons who would have, what a nest egg is, where people retire,
And
they're living
everything
comfortable,
there.
et cetera, and you enjoy your retirement, and this system comes and takes away everything,
Right.
and you can't rebuild. There's nothing you can do. So what happens is that people generally get themselves involved in the response, etc. But when the dust settles and you have to go back home and there's nothing, we saw cases where people just give up.
Yeah.
And I think we need to do, the region needs to do a review of this and really, somebody needs to do a paper on it. Because it's something that we oftentimes don't see. We don't see the human side of the event.
Correct.
Most of the time we do a damage assessment, we're looking at the impact of the structure, the houses, etc. So much so that in the past, damage assessment used to be just that, and then you would do a social assessment after. Now we do both together. Because I remember doing a damage assessment, having done a damage assessment in a country that was impacted, and we were counting houses,
Right.
and we got cussed. Why are you counting houses, the damaged houses, when people are here who are impacted?
Right.
And that's when we realize, you know what? Yeah, we need to do better. We need the house has a family in.
Right.
The
Correct.
family needs to be assessed
Right.
because we can't go back and just say 10 houses were impacted, roofs off, etc.
Right.
Somebody living in them.
Reminds me of another story from Dominica where we went into the city. At this point in time, we were being escorted by armed guards because, again, the situation it was. And we saw people like congregating around one water pipe. Some people washing clothes and stuff like that. So there was a photographer with me. And she was like, "Well, this is an impactful picture. Let me try to get this picture." So she went to take the picture, and a guy just take a bucket of water. I mean, the same water that he trying to catch, and just and throw it at her, right? And it was like, "I don't want the pictures. I want food. I want water. Will you do that?" And so there's now a situation where the soldiers about to do what soldiers supposed to do, and in my heart, it's like, nah, it's not that serious. The water didn't affect the camera. Sorry about that. We wasn't trying to offend you, sir. We understand, but we still want to get your story out.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we could do as media. That's something that we can. I know it might not seem like much, but it's something that is helpful to help people to understand what it is you guys are going through.
Right, and
it,
I
it
want
was
to,
rough though. Like, because it's funny because that explains. Like, I'm sure when you said that you went in, you hit the ground, you saw soldiers with guns. That experience, I'm sure you immediately were like, okay, I understand now. Because
Right.
the aggression
Yep.
was. I'm sure if you saw a guy today, he would apologize.
Probably, yeah.
But in the moment,
In the moment,
I
yeah.
tell you the desperation. Similar to what I actually wanted from Robert, but how soon after do you do the social assessments? Because when I was walking that first morning after, or technically the morning of Maria, you wake up and you see the destruction. It was hilarious to see. I mean, in hindsight, see people with the shopping carts full of groceries. And I hear one to myself, where are you
Where you going with that? Where you going with them?
Like, my got ice cream.
Yeah.
Like, where you going with this?
Yeah.
I see people with TVs. They're like,
Yeah.
well, what? You ain't watching TV for a while, my
Yeah.
guy. You know what I mean?
Yes,
But I
yes.
So-
accepted, like, you know what? These people just lost their minds right
Yeah.
now. I
Yep.
can't blame them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really sorry that happened to you. I heard so many instances like that. And
Yes.
it's scary.
The thing is, luckily for us, we got armed escorts.
Yeah,
Some
yeah.
people didn't have that, and there was things that were happening. And like I said, one of the guys, another guy in the port, brought down in tears. We did a documentary on it, and we can link it for everybody to go check it out. But he was telling us the story about why he was so happy to see the Barbados Defense Force, because he said, right now it's chaos, it's anarchy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
yeah.
I can remember when Grenada was. I can't remember the storm that destroyed Grenada.
I think it's
Like,
Ivan
Ivan.
in 2004.
And that have asked the fishermen to take supplies to Grenada.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we did volunteer, and we carried down water, food stuff, all of that type of thing. And we had went into the carnage. And when we got there were so much people on the pier. And the guy, we were in the hills, and we see these boats coming. We said, them coming for poor people. Let me tell you, these people was like rushing, people just boarding the boats.
Yeah.
So then the soldiers had come. And like you said, soldiers and do what soldiers do.
Right.
It was like, stop this here, move back, or leave it shoot. I was so scared.
I was scared too, sir.
It was a scary situation. But then the soldiers got control back the people. And these trucks came in to take off the stuff. But then some of the fishermen, because of when you see the people and the way how the people reacting, you will tell like, these people have lost everything.
Yeah.
And these people need to get something.
Yeah.
So some of the fishermen actually start to give
Wow.
outside of the soldiers.
Right.
And that also pissed off the soldiers.
Right.
So
Right.
it was a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
So you see, when people are, we probably experience that type of situation here in Barbados.
Like what we never do.
I hope
But then
so,
we
too.
get to tour the country, and then when I say, hey, like you say, you don't bring enough. You do not have enough.
To give.
It's that you will get them new clothes and go
Correct.
home and get clothes. Because we even saw people in a beer gathering, they just got the gathering propped up and sitting down there. And there was this woman with about 3 children. She said, when I bring that in for we to eat, and it was like, we had nothing to carry because soldiers out there. It was like,
Yeah.
we gotta find something for this.
I feel guilty for real.
Yes, we feel
Yeah,
guilty.
it's
That's
real.
what we feel.
It's a
I
real
even
heart-wrenching
feel, I can't
experience.
remember like, after Maria came home for a little bit, which in itself is a privilege, and I felt guilty eating. Like, you feel guilty eating food, you know?
So I want to be able to respond to you
Yes,
and
please.
then
Okay.
to the chief after.
Right.
So there is now a document which is a psychosocial handbook for responders.
Right.
Produced by Sidima a couple of years ago.
Right.
Which we need to use because it helps us as responders prepare for deployment, prepare our families for deployment,
Yes.
understand what the stresses are, understand how you can avoid PTSD, etc.
Right.
Because generally we go into situations where we see the worst happening to people,
Right.
and we can't do anything about it. Can't do anything because we got a job to do, and we're not trained to do that type of intervention.
Right.
So one of the things that is advocated across the region is that the country, so the Sidima system includes 20 participating states, of which Barbados is one.
Yes.
So the states sit together and plan the types of responses and the interventions that are required. So there's several response teams. And one of the teams that we work with is I think they call CAMPA, the Caribbean Association of Psychosocial Professionals, and they provide resources. And I think one would have gone down to Dominica with
I
you all
think so too.
to help do those types of debriefings, etc. Right. Although sometimes that is also challenging because of one instance where the psychologist went into the situation and she was the first one out. Because she was not accustomed to seeing that. She was accustomed to bring you in a controlled environment, put you in a culture, etc.
Theory,
And the amount of destruction she saw, she couldn't handle it. She needed to comfort herself.
Correct. Yeah.
So again, there's no magic bullet, none at all. So experience counts for a lot, and following the guidelines, because your plan is really a guide.
Yeah.
It's not going to cover all bases. Right. And to your question, sir. Your question. So the damage assessment process now includes, first of all, the ability to do a human assessment, right? So the first aspect of the assessment, when you go to look at the house, how the houses were damaged, etc., is also do that human impact assessment. Determine who was in the house, ages, the demographics, the ill, the injured, the missing, etc. Because all that is what the government wants to know, the operation center wants to know. We don't only want to know that 10 houses in this area impacted.
Right.
Who were in the, because you got 10 houses with 500 people impacted, just saying, right? And then what are the needs for those persons? So that's where that human aspect is so important, because several years ago, we never really looked at that, because why? We were impacted by Category 5 storms.
No. Correct.
We were not. And I just want to say that apart from the storms, I was deployed to Haiti back in 2021 after the earthquake there. So we had, and that's one of the conditions where we call a complex hazard environment.
Yes.
So we under COVID, You had the situation where the president had just been assassinated a couple of months earlier.
Yep.
You had an earthquake, and the day of the earthquake, you had a tropical storm impact from Greece.
Yes. Yeah.
So people that left their houses because the houses were destroyed, sleeping under tents on same galvanized and stuff, got impacted by a tropical storm. And if you know anything about Haiti, whether a tropical storm or tropical wave, there's significant flooding.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? And out of that situation, saw people. So we accustomed to lights. You can go and turn on the light, and if you don't get a light, you call somebody to complain, etc. Your communities, big communities, no running water, never had. No electricity, never had. Right? And that's something that I couldn't understand because I live with it. These people, they don't live with it. Right? So the type of poverty that was seen there, it was amazing. I mean, that's the first time too that we had to have a security overwatch, and every day we had to have a security brief,
right.
Because you had cases of things like lynching and humanitarian actors getting kidnapped and this and it was ridiculous. So we most of the time we traveled, and we had to travel by helicopter by either military or military helicopter, either army or navy,
Right.
and that's the only way to get around because there was no driving on the road because they're accessible by road, but you can guarantee to get pulled over and probably robbed or something, right? So that was a no. So that's that was the first time, and I needed the translator because my colleagues that would have gone there before me, they spoke French Creole.
Right.
I don't even know French.
Right.
so I needed a translator. So wherever I went, I had to have in my head a translator, right? And I had to trust him that he was telling me what he was supposed to be telling me.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Very good guy, and they're very, very good friends now.
Right.
But those are the type of conditions that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
In Bahamas, for example, when we did back after Hurricane Joaquin, we did an assessment as part of the rapid needs assessment team. My colleagues, we went into Crooked Island to do an assessment.
Right.
Where we were supposed to stay was not habitable. We
Right.
slept on the beach.
Right.
We did our work from the beach.
So you said Joaquin?
Yeah.
yeah.
Walking.
Yeah, that was back in 2015, I think. Yeah.
No, because I thought he was going to say Dorian.
No.
Which is so scary. It's so scary. Like,
I've had 8
jumble up.
deployments. The last one being post Beryl in St. Vincent Grenadines.
Okay.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that we see and we document and we try to build solutions around.
Right.
But one thing I say that the human spirit in the Caribbean is impressive.
Right.
We always hear we are very resilient. We always hear, thank God that we survived. I mean, there's people who lost loved ones, family, everything. But they're just thanking God that they survived. At least in that moment, directly after. Because directly after, the adrenaline flowing itself is totally different to a year after.
Right.
Yeah.
When you now realize that, lives and livelihoods are disrupted. So if you work, for example, at a gas station, and we saw this as well too,
Yes.
or you work, you're weekly paid, but there's no work to go to. The banks are closed. Your money ran out. What are you supposed to do?
Correct.
Right.
So apart from the impact on your house, is the impact on your life and your livelihood.
Yeah.
You work in a hotel, the hotel is destroyed. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
There's no work, right? And for those, for example, who some were repatriated to Barbados or wherever, particularly in places where you had a lot of expats working,
Yes.
there's no job here for you either. So
So what
you
you
have
gonna
to
do?
come back. Right, you have to pick up and almost start over.
Over again, yeah.
That's why I think the psychosocial aspect is so important, and we need to pay much more attention to it. But you have to ask for it because they can't come to you and say how you feeling, etc.
Correct. Yeah.
So we have to build that in, but we're not accustomed to that. What we find the men do is they go and drink.
Right.
Yeah,
They go and
yeah,
drink.
facts.
They drown the sorrows.
Self-medicate.
Self-medicate. Self-medicate.
Understandably so.
So,
Self-medicate. The women speak to each other, point on each other's shoulder. The men, because you're tough, you beat up our chest.
Yeah.
You go to the bottle.
Right. So these are all excellent points actually, and it was interesting to see your perspective as a first responder because I feel like I've gotten to be the fly on the wall. I got to observe those situations, so it's just interesting to hear that from you. But we're gonna have to wrap up, so I want to get some final thoughts. We can start with you, Ryan, in terms of moving forward. How you plan to move forward? How is recovery going? How is getting your stuff repaired going? What's your plans for like the next
Well,
event?
Step.
Right, as my man said, you as Bajans like to say, thank God we are alive.
Yeah, right.
And I think time is heal all wounds, or it can cause it to pass. So after the impact, I must say shout out to Shelly Elcock, the chief officer of the fishery. She did a tremendous job of getting the boats that were salvaged up out the water. A tremendous job. She was there from day one until she's still there. She did a tremendous job. And right now, most of the boats, they're on repair. Some has returned to the water, but some has received some extended damage that some of them ain't gonna see the water, not to something next year. Then the workmen too they're not so much workmen right now in Barbados who do that type of work. So in terms of moving forward, it can be it's a slow process, but you will get there. And imagine some of us have not worked since July, the 1st of July. So, the savings and everything down. So, but in everything, you got to give thanks and try and rebuild as best as you could. Some of us won't be able to rebuild because the fishing industry, for some of us, it was a boat that was passed down and you had to try your best to get it to where it was. And it totally destroyed. That's your only income. That's your only job you had, and it gone. Some of us will not get back, but some of us will prevail, and in a couple of years, we will go back the fishing industry back up to probably 90% the way it was.
All right, Tyson, we can come to you. Just your thoughts, anything you want to share? I know you're passionate about this.
Extremely passionate about this topic.
I wish we recorded our pre-production conversation before we see. We're very civil right now. But no, to build on what they were both saying about resilience, that's a fact. I have this memory because a part of feeling better after a hurricane or after any experience is looking good. I just understand for months you ain't even get a haircut. Women ain't get none, basic grooming. And I remember doing, just taking shots of different things, trying to find feel good stories. And my first haircut in months came from a barber who was cutting from his patio using a car battery he salvaged to power the thing. And the first time I ever saw something like that, and I was like, I respect that. So I was like, so how much? Cause I ain't got the cash. Like, I'm doing this for whoever need a haircut. I was like, I respect this man. And I just used that example, kind of similar then to what Ryan was saying. It would be interesting, it would be good if, because he spoke of the dearth of tradesmen being able to fix the boats. That's an opportunity that I would love to see if more people can step in now and perhaps learn
that trade.
Because it was a dying trade, dying art before the hurricane. It would be great if some people can be inspired by hearing what you said and learn how to do it. Because it was a dying art, and now more than ever before is needed for people to be able to repair boats and build boats and what's not. So I would love if we can then get to that chapter of the recovery. Similar to how after Maria especially, I became in my own way hyper aware of the need for screws versus nails in your galvanized. You have to learn something and move forward with it. And so I wish you the best, Ryan. I honestly, I didn't know so bad. I wish you the best. I could see you getting a little choked up talking about it, to be honest. But that was it. For me, I would just want that moving forward, people learn from these different lessons and try to find a way to not necessarily prevent it, but mitigate.
So for me to follow on from the chief, so I would want to a couple of things. Remind of the importance of community preparedness, building a community plan, building an individual plan, etc. Understanding the hazard that you can be impacted by in the location that you are. So the hazard that may impact you at home may not be that same one that impact you at work. Understanding what they are and how to mitigate, prepare, respond to them. I mean, this sounds easier than it actually is, as well as things like developing a business continuity plan. Again, understanding what can impact you and how you can mitigate, prepare for it, and respond to it. again, sound very much easier than it actually is. But at least that gives us a pretty good idea of what we could expect. And then in building them, we want to look at the challenges that we would face in the region to build them into our plan, because we always saying that don't happen here. That don't happen here. Barbados, and I want to be cautious about saying this, but we sit on the subduction zone. We are very prone to earthquakes. We have not had a major earthquake in the region for some time. But that's something we need to be cognizant of, because we see hurricanes coming, we prepare for them, we sit down, we plan, we shut down, etc. We put up shutters. A major earthquake. For me, my biggest concern in Barbados, the region, is an earthquake. Because when it happens without warning. It's a sudden impact event. And there's no all clear. The all clear is when you think that it's gone and the earth subsides again. But you can get several aftershocks as well. So for me, my biggest concern, and I keep saying this all over, is a major earthquake impact. The difference between an earthquake impact and a hurricane impact, there are subtle differences, but the concern with both of them is that it impacts human beings. Human beings, in whatever shape, form, or fashion. Right? So I want to end by commending the CDMA system and those men and women who are part of the regional response mechanism, who get up and show up on requests. They leave their families, sometimes go. My longest deployment was for just over a month. Leave their families, leave everything and go. Because the thing is that when we deploy, we know we're deploying for at least 2 weeks. But don't plan to come back home after 2 weeks.
Right.
Because once you get in there, you start working, and the country often says, we need you longer, longer. So sometimes it's very hard to pull out, because you are now part of a system that is trying to do something positive. So I want to commend those men and women who sacrifice a lot to be part of this regional mechanism. So on behalf of them, I want to reaffirm our commitment to as national and regional humanitarian actors, to members of the disaster management fraternity in the region, because it's a small group. We had a conversation very recently with some of the other national disaster organizers, just Monday or Tuesday, I believe. We were saying we getting ready to move on, and there's nobody coming behind. So there's nobody leaving school now to say we want to be a disaster manager.
I hope somebody watching this would become inspired.
But because it's a difficult job, so people see what they might call the glamour. There's no glamour. You're as good as your last event, right? There's no glamour. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot about helping people to be resilient, to use that word. But so I want to use the opportunity to commend them, to thank them for their sacrifice, and to reaffirm our commitment to providing the best we can to ensure that the region is resilient. Right?
All right, I just want to thank our guests for sharing the stories, coming through and telling us all about these different experiences. It was very insightful. I want to also encourage our audience, give us some feedback, let us know what you think, share your own stories. We are committed to telling stories and speaking about things that matter to you. So follow us on social media, let us know what are the things that you want us to talk about.